Hey, J-Bone Christian here, director of Mother to Earth, and happy April Fool's Day. First of all, I'd like to apologize for any soul-crushing that may have happened today. In case you haven't tuned in, we posted a picture on Twitter of a Super Nintendo prototype board under the guise of it being a newly uncovered Mother 2 prototype. We said it was donated to us from an anonymous donor, and that we were going to stream it and dump the ROM for people to play. Obviously, that was not the case. We were approached with an idea for a ROM hack of Earthbound called Sans is Nessbound, which replaced Ness in the game with Sans from Undertale, as well as other little odds and ends. Don't care names were changed, things like that. We know a lot of the best Earthbound hackers in the biz, and when we heard about this, I couldn't pass it up. Now, as it turned out, the prototype itself that we showed actually was an empty Super Nintendo prototype board that Evan happened to have. He's a collector himself, and he had gotten it through a deal online. And these things are incredibly hard to come by. The only one that I have ever seen in person that is empty like that and comes as is like that is the one that Evan has. That said, we've thought that this was an interesting way of talking about the legitimacy of prototypes, because they're an interesting beast. Prototypes, as the name implies, are versions of the game that obviously are not final. They're used mostly for testing bugs, patching out any sort of errors or typos in the localization of a game into other countries or in the actual Japanese development. Now, these are very rigorously recycled and thrown together and used using parts that they had lying around. The prototype boards are actually built in a way that lets you pop the chip right out and reuse it. Granted, none of the pieces are manufactured anymore, and they're, again, ridiculously hard to find. Is it possible to fake a prototype then? In theory, yeah. There are a lot of ways of telling whether or not a prototype is fake. We've seen a lot of fakes in our day, some that have been so perfect on the outside that if you didn't open it up, you would think it was real. Now, usually these fakes are thrown together to look good on the outside, and then are usually hacked together on the inside, whether it's a flash cart or there are wires everywhere and it just looks gross. Very piratey and very, very unkempt. That usually is a dead giveaway if you can open up a prototype and you see the inside. 99% of the time you will tell that it is either a fake or you might have some suspicion that it's real. If you have any prototypes that you think are real that you're unsure of, feel free to email us at mothertoearthmovie@gmail.com. Chances are it probably is a fake. There are a lot of them floating around, but it's usually pretty easy to tell. So long as we have photographic evidence of the inside of the board, things like that just, make things a lot easier. Any sort of consulting that you feel like talking to us about, I'm definitely 100% willing to look into it. Anyways, that was sort of a crash course in prototypes. I didn't want to get into specific details because if you happen to ever find stuff online, you have to know your math, obviously. There's a lot that goes into it, and it's not financially worth it to ever look into making a real fake, but it can happen. One final note, we are incredibly excited to announce that we have been in contact and can safely say that we have an interview overseas now, which is something I did not ever think would happen. I'm not going to name names until we have a specific date laid out, but we have received confirmation that they are interested and we are pursuing further planning. That said, international trips are expensive and we're trying to look into how to make that work. As plans develop further, we will be talking more about it, I'm sure. Otherwise, tune in next Thursday. I'll have an update at least on some of the stuff we've been working on. I've been trying to do a video every week. Obviously, this week, this ended up being a stand-in video. But we will try and make sure that that happens every week so that you will be consistently updated with content. Whew! Anyways, again, apologies. Feel free to play Sans is Nessbound. It's on starman.net. There's an IPS patch. Obviously, as far as legal standards go, we're not going to provide a real ROM for you. if you are interested, feel free to check that out in the PK Hack section of starman.net. I am Joshua Bone Christian, again, director of Mother to Earth, and I will see you around. And I'm sorry!